Chapter 108, FIRESTORM. Caitlin pulls up another brain scan. This one belongs to Ronnie, and there's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with it? Barry asks, looking back at Caitlin. This, she says, and pulls out the brain waves being emitted by Ronnie's brain. Wait, is that two different brain waves coming from one brain? How's that even possible? Barry asks. I don't know. Caitlin says. Dr. Wells, anything? Barry asks, looking at the man in the wheelchair. I have a hypothesis, Dr. Wells says. What is it? Barry asks. I don't think we are dealing with one consciousness, but two, Dr. Wells says. Wait, you mean like multiple personality disorder? Barry asks. Similar but not quite. But of course, this is just a hypothesis. If we really want to know what's going on, we need to ask the man himself, Dr. Wells says, pulling up the video of Ronnie banging his head against the thick glass, shouting to let him out. Barry looks at Caitlin and Cisco. They both nod their heads, and the whole team goes down to talk to Ronnie. The team arrives at the containment chamber and pulls up Ronnie's cell. The door opens, and they see Ronnie, looking tired as he stares back at them. Let me out. I'm not feeling so good. It's too hot. He says, and credit to him, he really doesn't look good. I don't think so, pal. You are a psycho, fire-sweeping menace, Cisco says. Please, I am losing my mind. He says. Before that, I have some questions for you, Mr. Raymond, Dr. Wells says, inching a little closer to Ronnie. What is it? Ronnie asks. Do you have multiple personality disorder, Mr. Raymond? Dr. Wells asks. Multiple personality disorder? No, I don't. But if you are talking about the old man's voice inside my head, then he talked too much. I got annoyed, so I suppressed him. But recently, he's been trying to break free. I am not going to allow some old man to take over my body, Ronnie says, gritting his teeth while his body shakes. His forehead is covered in sweat, and the consciousness in his eyes seems to be fading. Suddenly, he screams and clutches his head, slamming into the thick glass wall over and over again before finally looking at Team Flash. Firestorm! He shouts before collapsing. Firestorm? What's that? Cisco asks. I think I know. Dr. Wells says. Back at the Cortex, the team gathers again, looking at a research paper written by someone called Professor Martin Stein. FIRESTORM. Also known as Fusion, Ignition, Research, Experiment, and Science of Transmutation Originating RNA and Molecular Structures, Dr. Wells says. A groundbreaking idea. Its goal was to create stable nuclear fusion. I read the papers, but of course, it could never come into fruition as the person behind the project. Dr. Stein was one of the many casualties of the particle accelerator explosion. Dr. Wells says. It says here that this article was written by someone named Jason Rush, who's a grad student at Hudson University, Cisco says. I will arrange a meeting with this Jason Rush, he probably has something he can tell us about this F.I.R.E.S.T.O.R.M, Barry suggested. I will come with you, Caitlin says. Sure, Barry nods. Caitlin managed to get hold of Jason Rush and agreed to meet at Jitters this evening. Until then, Barry has a daytime job to work on. Barry arrives at CCPD, and he seems to be the talk of everyone's mouth, well, not him, but his other identity. The Flash. It's all over the news. Flash. The hero the city needs. And this article is written none other than Iris West. Flash, within minutes, saves the citizens of Central City from 3 dangerous meta-humans. Iris is clearly contributing to his rising popularity. There are already fake action figures and comics of him being sold all over the city. Too bad, Barry can copyright the Flash and earn millions from it. Looks like her blogs are now getting all the attention, especially from people who just want to know about the Flash, and Iris seems to be at the very front when it comes to reporting about anything Flash related. Barry is impressed by Iris's tenacity to hunt down stories related to Flash. She wants to make a career out of this and looks very serious. Barry walks into his lab and starts working. No matter how fast he gets his work done, there is a new pile of fresh cases on his table. Barry has no idea how his previous self with no powers managed to get through all this. Halfway through the files, he gets disturbed. Iris storms in excited. "You won't believe this," she says, smiling excitedly. "What won't I believe?" Barry asks. "I have been called in for a job interview at the Central City Picture News," she says, squealing happily. "That's great. Are you prepared?" Barry asks. "No. I am terrified. I need your help," Iris says. "What can I do?" Barry asks. "I want you to come with me to the interview. I need you to be my support system," she says. "What about Eddie?" Barry asks. "He is busy running his new meta-human task force. He told me to take you with me," Iris says. "Ugh. I am pretty busy," Barry says. "Please," she begs, clasping her hands together. Barry sighs. "When is it?" he asks. "Today, after lunch," Iris says, smiling. Barry looks at his work pile and decides to put a little more speed into it. "Okay, fine," he says. "Awesome, I knew I could count on you." "Okay, I have to go now, talk to you later," she says and storms out just like she stormed in. Barry sighs and begins working on the remaining case files with super speed so that he gets all his work done before going with Iris to this news network. Chapter 109, Linda Park. Barry puts his last work file aside and joins Iris for her interview. With nothing else to do but wait till his meeting to figure out more about FIRESTORM, he can kill some time visiting a place he has never been. Additionally, he had always wondered how a news station operates from the inside. Outer Central City Picture News. Barry and Iris stand before its entrance and look at the news building before them. Iris looks very nervous. She is constantly shifting her legs while clutching her fists and taking deep breaths. "You have to walk in, or they might penalize you for arriving late for your interview," Barry warns her. "I know. You don't need to keep saying it," she says. Her voice filled with nervous energy, but she strengthened her resolve and walked in. Barry chuckles and follows behind her. Walking into Central City Picture News, Barry begins looking around while Iris seems to be going through her talking points for her interview inside her head. "You go in, I will look around," Barry says to her and leaves Iris on her own. Iris tries to say something, but stops herself as she sees a few people already waiting for an interview just like her. She got called in because of her blog post about the Flash, and now it's time for her to prove to them that she can do it professionally as well. After leaving Iris on her own, Barry walks around the news station, looking at reporters working. As he walks around, he comes across a computer that has some incomplete work, and he gets curious as it's about baseball. Barry recalls having a memory of him playing baseball when he was young, but he soon grew out of it as his interest shifted to more science stuff. He looks at the article, and it seems to be about the match between two Central City baseball teams, the Stars and the Diamonds. "Who are you?" Barry suddenly hears a voice behind him. He turns around and finds a cute Asian girl. Their eyes meet as they stare at each other for a few seconds. Hi. My name's Barry Allen. I am just here with a friend. She has a job interview. You know, just here for support," Barry explains. The girl stares at Barry, her thoughts only privy to her. "Ah, so you are like the male best friend who comes running to the rescue, hoping that she finally takes notice of you," the woman says. Her words, sharp as a knife, but it would have also been very accurate if this were the old Barry. What? No? She is like my sister. Well, I am her adopted brother or something like that, Barry immediately corrects her. Hearing this, there's a spark in the woman's face. Well then. Nice to meet you, Barry Allen. I am Linda Park, she says with a beautiful smile and extends her hand. Nice to meet you too, Barry says, shaking her hand, and smiles back as they look into each other's eyes. There is something here, but Barry doesn't know if he should see it through. Can I have your phone? Linda suddenly asks. My phone? Why? Barry asks. Just give it to me, Linda says, showing her palm to Barry. Well, okay. Barry says and hands over his phone to Linda. Linda then takes out her phone and taps it on his. Barry's phone chimes, and Linda's contact info has now been downloaded in his phone, and his in hers. Here's my number, call me, she says and hands Barry his phone back. Ugh. Barry doesn't know what to say. It's not like he is in a relationship with Caitlin, but he has gotten pretty close with her during their time together as fuck buddies. Yay, sure, Barry says and decides to get out of this situation before he blows it all up. He needs time to think. Linda smiles. Well, I need to get back to work, so, would you mind? Linda says, pointing at the computer Barry was just looking at. Yes, go ahead, Barry steps aside and lets Linda take her seat. Linda smiles, brushes her hair to the back of her ear, and sits down. Barry then awkwardly walks away, not wanting to bother her during her work. He then spends the rest of the time wandering around in the canteen to see what a news station serves for food. Half an hour later, Iris is done with her interview, and she looks much more relaxed than she was when she walked in. How did it go? Barry asks while drinking a thick, sugary chocolate milkshake. I think it went pretty good, now I only need to wait for their call, Iris says. Well, good luck. I need to leave now, I have a meeting with someone, Barry says and bids farewell to Iris. He still has some time to spare, so he dons his suit and goes for a run. Running around the city and helping people avoid getting into accidents. Some of them would have been brutal if the Flash hadn't intervened. And as the sun is finally about to set, Barry returns to STAR Labs to fetch Caitlin and head to Jitters, where the man named Jason Rush agreed to meet them. Chapter 110, Army gets involved. Barry joins Caitlin as they head to Jitters. They look around before their eyes fall on the tall black man in a suit. That's him, Barry says as he recognizes the face from the file he read about on FIRESTORM. Caitlin looks at the man Barry's pointing at before looking back at him. Let's go, Barry says and approaches Jason Rush. Jason Rush. Caitlin calls for him. Yes, Dr. Snow. Jason asks back. Please, call me Caitlin. Thank you for meeting us, Caitlin says. Barry doesn't say anything as Caitlin's the one who is part of STAR Labs and she used her identity to contact Jason. Happy to. Although, to be totally upfront, if this is about the resume I mailed into STAR Labs, I've already accepted a position at Mercury Labs, Jason says. No, actually, we wanted to talk to you about F.I.R.E.S.T.O.R.M, Caitlin says. As soon as Jason hears the word firestorm, his face immediately changes to one of worry. And he tries to bolt. I'm sorry. This was a mistake. I have to go, Jason says as he is trying to leave, but Barry grabs him by his arm and stops him. Being stronger, it's not an issue for Barry. Please, this is a matter of life and death, and you are the only person who can help us, Barry says. Jason starts having second thoughts, hearing how serious Barry sounds. Okay. Jason calms down. Jason then sat down with them and told them everything he knew and why he was so on edge. Barry and Caitlin discovered that Dr. Martin Stein was their project leader, and they had achieved some rudimentary success with transmutation. However, their project was threatened with shutdown by the university where they were working, so Stein had to seek a private investor. But then Stein disappeared. The army then arrived and confiscated all their research, which explained why he looked so paranoid at the mention of Firestorm. Barry and Caitlin returned to STAR Labs and relay everything they heard from Jason to Dr. Wells and Cisco. Just then, something happens. The security system gets alerted, and a video pops up on the screen. A bunch of military men walk in with guns in their hands. What's going on? Barry asks, confused. Dr. Wells, on the other hand, seems much calmer, as if he were expecting this. Soon, the military walks into the cortex, leading them, a tall man with grey hair. General Wade Eiling. General Eiling, Dr. Wells acknowledges him. Dr. Wells, Eiling acknowledges back. What brings you here? Dr. Wells asks. Eiling doesn't answer. Right away, instead, he looks around the lab. His eyes linger on Barry for a few seconds as Barry stares back at him. I believe you have a few things that belong to me, Eiling says. I don't know what you are talking about, Dr. Wells says. Cut the crap, Wells, I know you are working with the Flash, and he captured one of my soldiers and Firestorm. I want them back, Eiling says. I don't know what you are talking about, Dr. Wells says. Then you will have no problem if my boys take a look around your facility. Eiling asks as he signals his men to start their search. Asking was just a formality. He didn't care if Wells agreed to his request or not. He isn't going to lose one of his greatest weapons. I would stop your men if I were you, General Eiling, Dr. Wells suddenly speaks up. Is that a threat, Wells? Eiling asks, raising his voice. You can consider it such, Dr. Wells says. I can have you arrested for threatening an officer of the state, Eiling threatens. Then I will take you down with me. I am sure the public would love to know what the army does behind their back. All those illegal, inhuman experiments. I am sure the media is going to have a great time with it, Dr. Wells says, looking dead into Eiling's eyes. They stare at each other for a few seconds before Eiling speaks. Stop. We are leaving. Eiling stops his men, but it's very evident from the look on his face that he doesn't like this one bit, and he isn't going to give up so easily. This isn't over, Wells, you messed with the wrong man, Eiling threatens. I will be waiting, Dr. Wells says, coldly. Let's go, boys, Eiling says and leaves. After he disappears, the team finally takes a sigh of relief. I can't believe that just happened, Cisco says. How did they know we were working with the Flash? Caitlin asks. The army is clearly monitoring meta-human activities, and Miss Susie, Plastic, seems to be one of their assets. And it looks like they are trying to weaponize meta-humans like Firestorm, so it's not a surprise they are monitoring the Flash. Eiling is very ambitious, he won't give up on them so easily, Dr. Wells says. My question is, if Susie works for Eiling, how did Grodd get control over her? Does Eiling have Grodd as well? Is he working with the Reverse Flash? Barry asks, looking at Dr. Wells. Wells stares at Barry before answering. I don't know, but I am sure we will find out soon, he says and rolls away. Where are you going? Cisco asks. To figure out how to separate Dr. Martin Stein from Ronnie Raymond, Dr. Wells says. Wait, you think Dr. Martin Stein is the other personality inside Raymond? Cisco asks. It's the only possible conclusion. The only people who know about Firestorm are people who worked on it in the army. A thug like Raymond would have no idea what it is. I speculated this from the very beginning, and it aligns with what Mr. Allen and Dr. Snow learned from Rush. Dr. Stein disappeared the day the particle accelerator exploded. Dr. Wells explains and leaves the cortex. Chapter 111, Frustrating Power. Team Flash is busier than ever. With Barry running around handling the troubles of the real world, his team has to work on finding ways to help the metas that are locked up under STAR labs. Their priorities being Plastikey, Girder, and Firestorm. The team is stretched thin, with Cisco and Caitlin trying to find ways to free Plastikey and Girder from Grodz's control, while Dr. Wells works on something to help Dr. Stein out of Ronnie's body. Other than finding out Grodz's whereabouts, Caitlin has also been working on how to control her powers. Unlike Barry's super speed, her powers are much more destructive. She has already frozen multiple things, as she has no control over her own powers. Every time she has a spike in her emotions, she ends up freezing something. Coffee mugs, pens, computers, and she is now on her third phone. If this continues, she is gonna go broke. With how things are going, she has been restricted from touching anything that's important in the lab, which is causing Caitlin a lot of frustration, making her power flare UPS even worse. Barry returns to STAR labs and finds a very frustrated Caitlin who has been sidelined in the chair. He looks around and sees a section of the computer covered in ice. Cisco also looks to be on edge around her. Cisco's stiff shoulders immediately relax when he sees Barry. "I am gonna go and get some coffee," Cisco says and gets off his chair as he walks past Barry. He signals Barry to take care of Caitlin, who is not having a good time. "Hey," Barry approaches Caitlin with caution. "What?" Caitlin snaps. She is clearly not her usual self. Her powers are clearly affecting her behavior. She is usually not this snappy and cold towards others, especially to Barry. She immediately realizes her mistake and panics a little. "Oh my, I am so sorry. I don't know what came over me," she says. Her voice carried a tone of sadness. "Hey, it's okay. It's just a phase. Your body's getting used to your new powers. Soon you will have it in control," Barry says, trying to comfort her. "This didn't happen to you? When you got your powers, you got the hang of it instantly. What if it's not just a phase? What if my powers make me less human? I can already feel it whenever it happens." "I feel different," Caitlin says. Sounding worried. Barry doesn't know what to say. She is clearly too stressed to reason right now. "Hey, why don't we go back to my place? It's better than sitting here, doing nothing," Barry suggests. Caitlin looks at Barry and sighs. "Fine," she says. Back at Barry's apartment. Barry and Caitlin walk in. He locks the door behind him and asks her, "So what do you wanna do?" He turns to face her, only for Caitlin to lunge at him with a kiss. Barry saw it coming from a mile away. He accepts her kiss. Their lips lock, and their tongues instantly entangle. Caitlin is being very aggressive. She is clearly very frustrated and wants to blow off some steam. Barry places his hand on her ass and lifts her up, making her wrap her legs around her and causing her one-piece dress to roll up, exposing her ass. Barry immediately runs her to his bed and continues making out on it. Caitlin is putting in way more effort than usual, which only shows how frustrated she is with everything that's going on in her life. Barry removes her clothes while his hands snake around her sexy body, his touch electric, making Caitlin moan from great pleasure. He slips his finger inside her, vibrating it at super speed while also channeling a little bit of electricity into it. Caitlin's body stiffens up, and her eyes flutter as she experiences immense pleasure from what Barry's doing to her. Unable to hold himself back either, Barry takes off his pants and presses his big cock against her sloppy wet cunt and pushes in. He feels her walls tightening around him, and it feels way tighter than ever before, probably because of the recent changes her body is going through. Physically, she has become much stronger. "Fuck," Barry moans and starts moving. He starts putting more power and speed behind his thrust. His dick starts vibrating while channeling a small amount of electricity. Caitlin immediately gets overwhelmed by all these stimulations hitting her at the same time. She feels his electricity coursing through her whole body, her pleasure receptors inside her are simultaneously being assaulted at the same time by his vibrating cock, and her cervix is getting repeatedly smashed. Even after having sex so many times with Barry, she still can't handle what he puts her through, but she doesn't want this to stop either. When you have a super dick at your disposal, you tend to stop giving a shit about everything else other than the moment of bliss you are experiencing right now. Caitlin feels as if she is about to explode from pleasure. Fuck 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 yes 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 yes, she moans out loud while her eyes roll over. That is when Barry starts noticing something, his surroundings suddenly got very cold. Caitlin, too, starts feeling something, snapping her out of her blissful state. Wait. Wait. Stop, she begs Barry to stop. Barry stops and pulls out. Caitlin gasps as her eyes glow white. The room gets extremely cold. She was about to freeze everything in sight, and Barry had not stopped. Caitlin presses her lips in frustration. I can't do this, she says and rolls out of bed, heading to the door. Chapter 112, Who's Linda? Caitlin rolls her dress down in a hurry and tries to leave, but Barry stops her by holding her hand. Kate, wait. Barry stops her. I can't do this. I am feeling as if I am slowly losing control. A single mistake and I might hurt one of you, worse, even get one of you killed, Caitlin says, and her reasons are very valid. Her powers are far more volatile than anyone expected. You are not going to hurt anyone, you are not that person, Barry says. Barry. I have no control over myself. Sometimes I feel like I have two people inside me fighting for control. Just a few seconds ago, I felt myself losing, and you were about to get hurt. I can't do this anymore. Caitlin shouts. Her emotions start spiking again, her eyes start glowing white, and the temperature of the room drastically starts falling. She doesn't just look frustrated, she looks angry. Barry notices her volatile nature and realizes he needs to change the subject. Talking more about this would just frustrate her more. Okay, I understand, but remember what I said when we started all this? I need you guys so that we can help people together, but now it's my turn to help you. I promise to be there for you, through thick and thin, Barry says and pulls Caitlin into his embrace. In his warm embrace, Caitlin immediately breaks down and starts crying. Her emotions are all over the place, and right now, the only thing she needs is not words of affirmation, but just something to cry on. Barry takes her back to bed and lets her cry it all out until she falls asleep. He looks at her sleeping and is a little worried about her. He did catch her saying that she is fighting for control against a part of her from the inside. Caitlin clearly has no idea about what it is, but Barry does. He knows the future. Caitlin has another entity inside her, which seems to have become or is about to become conscious because of Caitlin's recent power gain. The only way Barry can think of helping Caitlin is by teaching her how to control her own powers. And that might be a very difficult task. Morning lights up Barry's apartment. Caitlin's eyes flutter as she slowly opens them. She looks around and finds herself alone on the bed. She sits up and sees herself in a comfortable gown. She smiles and starts looking for Barry. Now that she has a much sharper nose, she can smell the breakfast being prepared. Recalling last night, she feels a little conflicted but also relieved that she has someone to hold and cry to. Everything that's happening with her has caused her a lot of stress. Having Barry has made it a little easier. She rolls out of bed when she suddenly hears a chime. It's Barry's phone. Caitlin turns to look at it and sees a message pop up on the screen. It's someone named Linda. Linda? Who's that? Caitlin wonders. The message is still on the screen. Curious, Caitlin picks up and reads it. Hey, haven't heard from you yet. Just wanted to know if go on a date. Caitlin doesn't know what to think of this as she reads it. Another girl. Hey, you are awake. I made some breakfast, Barry says. Here, someone named Linda messaged you, Caitlin says and hands the phone back to Barry. Hearing Linda's name made Barry quickly take the phone from her hand to look at the message. Barry reads the message and can't help but smile a little. He never expected Linda to be so bold as to ask him on a date. Well, then again, she was the one who gave him her number. So, are you going? Caitlin suddenly asks. Hey? Ugh. I don't know. Barry looks up at Caitlin and finds it hard to express what he is thinking. Sure, he liked Linda. She is beautiful, bold, and didn't even hesitate to express her interest, and now she is asking him on a date. But to admit that he wants to go on a date with a girl before another girl with whom he is sleeping is not a good idea. Even if they have agreed to keep it casual. You should go, Caitlin says, surprising Barry. Never has he heard a woman tell the man she is sleeping with to go on a date with another girl. Are you sure? Barry asks. Yes. It's not like we are dating. We did agree to. You know, keep it casual, Caitlin says. Barry looks at Caitlin as she gives him a forced smile. He doesn't know what Caitlin is thinking, but he doesn't want to figure it out. Okay. Barry says. So. This Linda. Where did you meet? Caitlin asks. Ugh. I met her at Central City Picture News when I tagged along with Iris for her interview. She's a sports reporter working there, Barry says. Oh, well. You go on that date. You deserve some free time with all the lives you save, and I am going to head to STAR Labs. Cisco probably needs my help, Caitlin says and gets ready to leave. Barry's not blind. He can obviously see that Caitlin is being a little distant. But he is not worried. He knows they will be okay. The bond between them is a lot stronger than ever. She is clearly going through a hard time because of her volatile powers. It's best to let her figure things out before he tries to help her. Chapter 113, A New Threat. Barry and Caitlin have their breakfast before she leaves. Barry notices that she is still thinking through some things and doesn't offer her a ride to STAR Labs. Instead, he brings his focus back to his phone. He looks at the message Linda sent him. He writes back. I would love that. How does tonight sound? Barry replies. He gets a reply within a few seconds. I was a little worried there, thinking I chased you off with my straightforward approach. As for tonight. It sounds great, she writes. No. I liked it. So tonight at 8. Where do I pick you up? Barry asks. Linda immediately replies and tells him to pick her up outside her workplace. This made Barry smile. She is very interested in him, so he is not going to push back. Barry then got ready and left for work. Back in his lab at CCPD, he writes down some of her reports. He gets called on the field for forensic analysis. Barry uses his super speed to fill up the last bits of the report before heading out. He arrives at one of the posh areas of the city. This area is home to some of the richest people in the city. And the crime scene seems to be inside a large mansion that seems to have held a gala for the ultra-elites of the city last night. Barry arrived at the scene and saw a few officers standing guard outside. He showed them his ID and headed in. Entering the mansion, he found it void of any people other than police officers. Barry, over here, Barry heard Joe's voice from above. He looked up and saw Joe waving at him from an inner corridor. Barry climbed up the stairs and arrived before Joe. What is it? Barry asks. See for yourself, it's freaky. Everyone here already believes Ahmed's involved, Joe says. Okay, let me check, Barry says and enters one of the many bedrooms inside the mansion. He walks in and finds a pale-looking corpse. No blood. Barry immediately concludes. He gets up close and takes a better look. It's the corpse of a man, a fat, obese man in his 50s. Subject, male, approximately 50 years of age, obese habitus. Condition: exsanguinated body. Has been dead for 12 hours or fewer. The corpse exhibits marked pallor consistent with extensive blood loss. No significant livor mortis noted, faint dependent discoloration visible along the posterior aspect. Rigor mortis is fully developed. Multiple patterned contusions along bilateral upper arms and anterior shoulders. Each contusion is roughly oval, 2-3 cm in diameter, and arranged in linear clusters consistent with human fingertip placement. Similar marks present along the lateral aspects of the lower jaw/mandible, suggestive of forceful restraint. Superficial abrasions at the neck consistent with digit pressure. Absence of active hemorrhage post-mortem suggests most pressure applied ante-mortem. Barry breaks down everything he sees as a skilled forensic analyst. He then slowly turns the corpse's head and notices something else. Paired puncture wounds on the right anterolateral neck, 3.2 cm apart, center to center. Each wound is about 0.5 cm in diameter, penetrating the epidermis and dermis. Wound characteristics: margins are smooth, well-defined, with minimal tearing of surrounding tissue, consistent with sharp incisor penetration rather than tearing or crushing injury. Surrounding ecchymosis, bruising, is evident, indicating blood circulation at the time of injury, confirming a bite delivered ante-mortem. No defensive scratch marks in the immediate vicinity of punctures, suggesting rapid incapacitation or overpowering restraint. Dried blood staining collar and adjacent skin, no arterial spray pattern observed, indicating controlled suction rather than violent vessel laceration. As Barry breaks all of it down in his head, only one word comes to his mind. Vampire. He couldn't help but murmur it out loud. What was that? Joe, who is standing behind him, asks. Barry turns to look at him. Joe, you are not gonna believe this. Barry says, with a little excitement in his voice. Please, I have already seen everything I could possibly see, Joe says, and he is not wrong. Working with Barry has given him a front-seat view of all the crazy, unbelievable world of meta-humans. Not something like this, Barry says, looking back at the corpse. What is it? Joe asks. A vampire. Barry says with some excitement in his voice, because how could he not? If this thing is really a vampire, things are going to get wild. Wait, did you just say vampire? You are telling me vampires are real? Joe asks. His voice filled with disbelief. I don't know, all the injuries on this corpse, the absence of blood, the bite mark on his neck only point to one thing. A vampire did it, Barry says. Fuck me. We already have a psychic gorilla and a psycho speedster to deal with, and now you are telling me there is a vampire going around sucking people dry? Joe asks. As he puts it like this, Barry realizes that it is indeed a fucked up situation. He just got a little excited at the possibility of coming face to face with a vampire. He is a nerd and a geek after all. How am I going to explain it to the captain that the perpetrator is a freaking vampire? Joe says as he feels a headache coming his way. Well, he knows metas are real, maybe he will accept that vampires exist as well, Barry says jokingly. Are you sure we are dealing with a vampire? Joe asks once again. I can run some tests, see if I can find any foreign DNA trace to find out exactly what it is, Barry says. He is also not 100% sure about this. You do that, Joe says and walks away while Barry gets to work. Chapter 114, Cerebral Nullifier. A vampire? Are you sure? Cisco asks, both shocked and excited. I am very positive. I ran DNA tests on traces of saliva I found around the bite wound, and it didn't match anything human or animal, Barry says with equal excitement. Couldn't it just be a meta? Caitlin suggests. She, too, gets interested in the possibility of the existence of vampires. She doesn't want anyone to know this, but she was a hardcore enthusiast of vampire romance novels, and still is. She just doesn't want others to know about this. And it is also acting as a distraction for her. No, It's not. There were no traces of dark matter in the DNA cells. This is something else, Barry says. All my life, I have dedicated myself to science. Never did I expect I would come across something beyond science. Something supernatural, Wells says, trying to express his own fascination. Barry looks at Wells, knowing Wells is from the future, he probably already knows about supernatural beings, but he does a really good job displaying his fascination. Guys, I don't believe this. Check this out, Cisco says, and suddenly pulls out the map of the entire country. Recently, similar cases have been reported all across the country. Corpses found with their blood drained, but for some reason, it's getting no attention at all. As if someone's trying to deliberately cover it, Cisco says. Barry looks at the man and sees red all over the place. Cities like Metropolis, Gotham, Keystone City, Coast City, Ivy City, Gateway City, Fawcett City, Bloodhaven City, National City, and Dakota City are some of the very few that are being shown to the man. The scale of this is much larger than he expected. Barry's eyes widen with shock. This is something beyond what he expected. He thought this was just some random vampire encounter, but from the man, it looks like a complete takeover. This can't be real, Barry says. It is. It's far more serious than we thought, Cisco says. Now, no longer sounding as fascinated as before. Even Barry gets serious. The excitement in the cortex dies down fast. So many people are dead, but why is there no news about this? I will inform Joe about this, maybe he can find something out, Barry says. I will try to find more about what's really going on, Caitlin says, trying to busy herself. Cisco, what about Gord? Have you found a way to locate it? Barry asks. No, but I did make something to help the two metas escape Grodd's influence. Behold the cerebral nullifier, Cisco says, and takes out a gun-like machine that has a mini antenna-like thing attached to it. I was trying to figure out how to counter Grodd's psychic influence on those two, when I thought, why not fire a counter wave with the exact opposite frequency at them? Cisco says. That's genius. The waves will cancel each other out, breaking the hold Grodd has on those two, but does it work? Barry asks. It should. I am 80% sure it works, Cisco says, sounding uncertain. Do we have any other choice? We can't just keep an innocent woman locked down there for no reason. Let's see if it works, Barry says. You two do that while I try to finish my quantum splicer, Dr. Wells says. Quantum splicer? Barry asks. Yes, Dr. Martenstein and Ronnie Raymond were quantumly entangled when they were hit by the dark matter from the particle accelerator explosion. My quantum splicer is a fission device, it will bombard their atoms with enough energy to separate the two, Dr. Wells explains. Barry stares at Dr. Wells, knowing that if there was anyone who would figure out the firestorm problem, it would be Dr. Wells, as he is a genius from the future. Such technology is primitive to him. This is also one of the reasons Barry decided to keep Wells secret. If Wells plans to use Barry to go back to the future, Barry can also use Wells to solve the problems of the present. Once we deal with this, we go after the vampires, Barry says. Cisco, the vampire hunter, it has a nice ring to it, Cisco says with eager anticipation. __. Down at the meta-containment chamber, Cisco points his gun at Plastikey, who still seems to be in a doozy state. All the members of Team Flash attempted to communicate with Grodd through both Plastikey and Girder. Even Caitlin failed to extract anything, even though she had a very strong bond with Grodd. They received no response, only mindless growling, which made it harder for Team Flash to gather any information about Grodd. That big-ass gorilla definitely went into hiding. Barry stands next to Cisco as he fiddles with his cerebral nullifier. Go on, let's see if it works, Barry says. Here we go. Cisco takes a deep breath and pulls the trigger. The cerebral nullifier hums and releases multiple waves that distort the air before it, hitting Plastiki and sending her flying, and hitting the padded wall behind her. Did it work? Barry asks as he sees Plastiki on the ground, grunting and moving. We will find out in a few seconds, Cisco says. Barry locks in to make sure nothing goes wrong. Ugh! My head, it hurts, where am I? The woman finally speaks, clutching her head. Both Barry and Cisco sigh, seeing the cerebral nullifier work. Chapter 115, Questioning. Bet Sans Souci grunts as she feels a sharp headache. She looks up with hazy eyes and sees two men watching her. One's a handsome, tall man, and the other is short with long hair, holding a gun, or at least that's what it looks like. Seeing that a gun is being pointed at her, she immediately gets back on her feet and backs off, trying to defend herself. She frantically looked around for something to touch and throw at her attackers, but finding nothing in sight, she looked at the wall and then at Barry and Cisco. If she is going to die, she is going to take her attackers with her. She charged towards the wall, wanting to turn the whole thing into a bomb. Oh shit! Barry realized what she was about to do and entered flash time. He immediately ran up to her and knocked her out before she could even touch anything. Before her body could hit the floor, Barry grabbed her. Phew, that was close, Barry says, looking at Cisco. Why did you do that? Cisco asks. Did you forget what she can do? She was about to turn this whole chamber into a bomb, Barry explains. I totally forgot about that, Cisco says, and he lowers his cerebral nullifier. Let's get her upstairs and restrain her so that she doesn't try to blow us up again when she gets up, Barry suggests. _____. Half an hour later, Bet wakes up groggy again, and this time she finds herself on a lab bed with her hands and legs tied up. She struggles to break free but is not strong enough to do so. Calm down, we aren't going to hurt you, Barry says as he walks into her field of vision. Bet looks at Barry, it's the same man she saw last time. She remembered trying to blow everything up, but then it all went blank. She looks around and sees a few more people, a woman, a man in a wheelchair, and the guy with the long hair who was previously pointing a gun at her. Who are you people? Where am I? Let me go, right now. She demands. Miss Souci, please calm down. You are at STAR Labs. My name is Dr. Harrison Wells. The reason we have restrained you is to stop you from turning everything into a bomb, Wells explains. What do you want? Bet asks as she realizes she is in an unescapable situation. She looks down at her hands and sees that they are gloved, which is preventing her from using her powers. We want you help you. Do you remember what happened to you? Do you even know why you are here? Barry asks. Betty looks at Barry again. She wants to argue, but as Barry's question enters her thoughts, she pauses. She doesn't remember anything. I was at an army medical facility. I was a test subject, but then I don't remember. Betty says as she tries to remember more. How about I free you from those restraints, and in return, I hope you don't try to turn things into a bomb, okay? Barry asks, making eye contact with Betty, trying to build trust. She doesn't completely trust Barry, but she would rather be free of any restraints right now. She nods her head. Barry approaches Betty and releases her restraints, allowing her to sit up. She rubs her wrist and looks around. The woman and the man with the long hair are the only ones who look worried. As for the man before her and the one in the wheelchair, they don't seem bothered. Thank you. Betty says, rubbing her wrist to ease the irritation on her wrist. It's okay, please continue. You said you were a test subject, Barry lets her continue with her story. Betty looks around, worried, but seeing that the people before her have no intention to hurt her, she tries to remember what happened to her. It all started when that explosion covered the sky. Betty starts explaining how, after the particle accelerator exploded, she realized that she had the power to turn anything into a bomb. Thinking that it's the military who did this to her, she went to confront them, only to be turned into a test subject. They promised her they would fix her, but the only thing they did was experiment on her. When she realized that they couldn't help her and that they were not the ones who turned her into the thing she is, she tried to run away, but got captured. The military then locked her up and started treating her as nothing but an object for them to run more tests on. One day, there was suddenly this storm of red lightning. I saw military scientists who were experimenting on me go flying, and then. I don't remember anything from then on. Betty says, clutching her head, trying to remember, but she couldn't draw anything but blank. You saw a red lightning storm? Barry asks. Yes, it came in and ripped through everything and everyone before I lost consciousness. Betty says. Barry looks at his team as they all can figure out what happened after that. Chapter 116, Date. So you are telling me, a man who can move very fast, broke me out of my prison and let a psychic gorilla mind control me and force me to commit a terrorist attack? Bet asks as she gets filled in on why and how she got here. Everyone in the room nods their head. Why should I believe you? Bet asks. Cisco, Barry signals Cisco. Cisco pulls up the footage of that night in the city center. Bet sees herself on the screen, throwing explosives at innocent citizens as they try to run for their lives. Bet can't believe what she is looking at. She joined the armed forces to protect the people of this country, not hurt them. As the video continued, she saw a flash of lightning and saw herself getting knocked out, and a man in a red full-body suit suddenly appeared before her. Is that him? Bet asks. No, that's me, Barry says. You? Didn't you just say the one who used me is someone who can move very fast? What if it's you? And all of this is just some sick mind game from you people to use me again? Bet asks, getting defensive again. Barry sighs. Look, we have no reason or cause for us to force you to do anything, and like you said, you saw a right lightning storm, Barry says, and white lightning sparks out of his hand. The man who broke you out of the military facility calls himself the Reverse Flash. He used you as a distraction to keep me busy while he tried to steal something very dangerous, Barry explains. Hearing Barry's Betel calms down a little, but Barry can see that she is still suspicious about them. What now? She asks. Now, we are going to help you, Miss Susie. It was my particle accelerator that exploded and turned you into a meta-human. The least we can do is help you understand your powers better and learn how to control them, Dr. Wells speaks up. Bet looks at Wells and then looks at her hand. Everything she has touched has turned into a bomb. If she can control her powers, then maybe she won't feel so isolated and alone anymore. She turns to look at Barry. Trust us, our team here understands meta-humans better than anyone. If anyone can help you, it's them, Barry says. Betty nods her head. Great. Doctors know, Cisco, let's run some tests on Miss Susie, right away, Dr. Wells says, and the team gets to work. I will take my leave, I have something planned, Barry says and looks at Caitlin, as she is the only one who knows about his date. Caitlin smiles and gives him a thumbs up. Barry smiles awkwardly and leaves. It still feels weird seeing a woman he is having sex with be okay with him going on a date with another woman. Caitlin is clearly not stable right now, she needs her own time to come to terms with her new self. Barry runs back to his apartment to get ready for his date. Putting on his best not-so-formal clothes, he gets ready within minutes and runs out again, arriving at the agreed-upon location right on time. A few minutes later, Linda walks out wearing a red top, black jeans, and a black jacket. Though she is not dressed like it's a date night, Barry doesn't mind as she still looks stunning. Seeing Barry, Linda smiles and skips towards her. Hi, she says, smiling with glee. Hi, Barry says back and hands her a bouquet of flowers. I didn't know which kind you liked, so I got them all, Barry says as the bouquet of a mixed bag of colorful flowers. Linda smiles and takes the bouquet of his hands and gives it a smell. Thank you. Shall we? Barry asks, giving her his hand. Linda smiles, wraps her hand around Barry, and they begin their date. _____. The date is going great. Barry tells her about what he does and how he is a nerd and a geek at the same time, which Linda found hard to believe at first because Barry doesn't look like either one. He is tall, lean, handsome, and has an aura of mystery around him, which intrigues Linda, and then there is his touch. Each of them feels electric, making her body light up. If not for weird scientific facts and knowledge of movies, Linda could never see someone like Barry as a nerd or a geek, let alone both, but now that she knows who he is, she likes him even more. As the date is about to come to an end, Barry walks Linda home. They smile and laugh. So, tell me, how is a guy like you still single? Linda asks. What do you mean? Barry asks. Come on, you are smart, funny, charming, and goofy in the best way possible. How have girls not scooped you up yet? Linda asks. Ah, that. It's complicated. Barry says. Isn't everything complicated? Go on, I can handle complicated, Linda says, giving Barry a confident and assured smile. Barry sighs and begins talking. Growing up, I liked this girl, but you know how it is when the girl you like is also your best friend, Barry says, laughing awkwardly. Ouch, yay, I get it, Linda says, patting Barry's arm with a smile. Yay, so I liked her, but could never bring up the courage to ask her out. I dated a few girls, but none of them was her, then I moved on. Some love stories are not meant to be. She has found someone she loves, and I am happy for her, Barry says. That was not that complicated, Linda says. Well, I haven't gotten to the complicated part yet, Barry says, grinning, embarrassed. Linda gets curious. Then I started this second hobby outside forensic work. I met a girl there, I liked her, and she liked me back, Barry says. Then what was the problem? Linda asks curiously, as if she is listening to some juicy gossip. Barry could see why Linda became a journalist. She was not emotionally available. But we did get into a different kind of relationship, if you know what I mean, and that has been going on for months. Then I got too busy with work, and my hobby, I have no time for myself. So yay, that's it, Barry says. Linda doesn't say anything for a few seconds, processing what she just heard. Sounds like a lot of work. Don't you feel exhausted? Linda asks. Barry looks at her and smiles before shaking his head. No, this hobby of mine, I couldn't ask for anything better even if I wanted to. It fulfills me like no other, Barry says, sounding very genuine, which Linda catches. What's this hobby that's so special? Linda asks, now more curious about the hobby that Barry's complicated love life. Well, maybe I will tell you someday, Barry says, smiling mysteriously. There you go again, being mysterious, Linda says, earning a chuckle from Barry. This girl, the one you are in a. You know what, is it still going on? Linda asks. Barry sighs. I have to be honest with you, I hope you don't find it weird, Barry says. I don't know, I have been in a few weird situations as well, Linda says. Well, today when you texted me, we were together, and she saw your message, Barry says. No way! Linda exclaims. And then what happened? Did you two break it off? She sounded more curious than offended. Nothing like that. It was actually she who told me to go on this date, Barry says. Linda is, for the first time, stunned. Chapter 117, Flash in Action. Linda never expected those words to come out of Barry's mouth, because who in their right mind would even think of such? This is the first time she has ever heard a woman willingly send the man she is sleeping with on a date. But then again, she has heard people do a lot of weird things because of the line of occupation she is in, but this is still her first time encountering a situation like this. Are you being real? Linda asks, still bewildered by what she just heard. I am, Barry says, sighing. Barry really enjoyed his time with Linda. She is so different from the other women in his life. She is charming, fun, bold, and clearly doesn't shy away from expressing how she feels. It was quite refreshing from his usual experience when it came to women, but he was not going to start this relationship with a lie. From the little time he spent with Linda, he could tell that she is not the type of person who would be okay with being lied to, even if technically he is not in a relationship. If telling the truth causes him to miss out on an amazing girl like her, then maybe it is meant to be. Linda processes the information in her head, and she looks at Barry, wondering what she should say. I know it's weird, and I completely understand that if you are weirded out by it and no longer want to continue with this, Barry says. I have a question, be honest, Linda says. Go ahead, Barry affirms. Did you want to come on this date? Linda asks. Yes. Barry immediately answers. I was just worried about what she would think, but when she said to go with you, I jumped at the chance, Barry says. Linda gives Barry a look that he has no idea what it means. She then turns her back to Barry and starts walking away. Seeing this, Barry sighs. Looks like it's not meant to be, he thinks, but then Linda suddenly stops and turns to look at him. Why are you just standing there? Won't you walk me home? She asks, smiling. As soon as she says this, Barry's face lights up and he immediately jogs towards her. I thought before he could say anything, Linda cut him off. Look, we are adults, everything is complicated, and I don't care about anything else other than what happened tonight. I liked what happened, and I want to see where it goes before I am certain about what I want out of this, Linda says. She had said enough for Barry to no longer feel pressured. So with a smile, he walks beside her before reaching out and grabbing her hand. Linda smiles as Barry holds her hand as he walks her home. They continue to talk about the little things in their lives, no longer interested in discussing their past complicated love life, when suddenly they hear gunshots going off and then the screams of people. Linda gets startled and closes in on Barry as she turns to look toward the source of the sound. Within seconds, multiple masked figures rush out, blazing their guns in the sky, scaring away anyone in their path. Talk about bad timing, Barry thinks. Not for him, but for the robbers, as they just tried to rob a bank right before the flash. Barry enters flash time and slowly lets go of Linda's hand, then begins walking towards the robber. Before doing so, he takes a look at Linda's frozen face. She looks beautiful, he thinks, before continuing his way towards the robbers. Barry didn't have to do much. He took the guns from their hands, unmasked them, grabbed a rope that they themselves were carrying, and used it to tie them up against a pole before walking back to Linda and holding her hand and exiting flash time. Everything happened before anyone could process anything. 1 second there were people running away screaming from the violent robbers who came out guns blazing, and the next second, there was a flash of lightning everywhere, and the robbers were tied up together against a pole. Everyone stopped and stared at the robbers before bursting into cheers as they all realized what had just happened. Holy shit, that was the flash, wasn't it? Linda says excitedly. It sure was, Barry says, smiling, finding Linda's excitement over witnessing the flash in action cute. Looks like you are a fan, Barry says. How can I not be? Our city's own superhero, the fastest man alive, Linda says. Do you wonder how amazing it must feel to move that fast? She asks, looking at Barry. I believe it feels exhilarating, Barry says. How would you know? Linda asks. I did track and field before getting into all the nerdy science stuff, Barry says. Linda laughs, and they wait and watch for the police to arrive and arrest the robbers before continuing their way back home. Right outside Linda's apartment, she and Barry stand face to face, looking into each other's eyes. "I had an amazing time," Barry says. "Me too," Linda says, smiling, pressing her lips together. Barry knew it was time for him to make his move. This entire time, it has been Linda who has been initiating everything. Now it's time for him to make the first move and show her that he is as interested in her as she is. His eyes shift to her lips, and he leans in. Linda doesn't pull away. Their lips touch, and they kiss with their eyes closed.